Welcome to Black Belt Leader. I'm Karen Gately, the founder of Corporate Dojo. On our show today, we'll be exploring what it takes to be at our best and to reach our potential, whether that be at work or more broadly in life. We'll also take a quick look at what leaders can do to enable their teams to be at their best, including through times of challenging change. First, we're joined by our guest, Mark Carter. Mark is a people and behaviour expert. He's a speaker, an author and director of MC Glow International. Mark, welcome to Black Belt Leader.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you here, and I was excited to be reading a copy of your book and thought it'd be great to get you in. So congratulations on the release of Add Value.
Yeah, great timing this year. Best timing ever.
Yeah.
Everybody's re-establishing what they value. So.
Yeah, exactly. So the first question that, reading the book that sort of inspired me to want to ask you was, we talk about reaching our potential. What's the foundational, the best advice you've got for people around where do I start? I know that in theory that's an important thing to do. Yeah. How do I move forward down that direction?
Yeah, I break this down in the book as one element. I call it personal value, and there's a sign that used to be above the temples in Greece and Delphi. Know thyself.
Yeah.
And when you know yourself, you can enact on that and bring your potential out. And that's 4 layers. How do I function? Nobody's great at everything despite what they may claim. So we've got to know our strengths and also know our weaknesses. What's driving me? What's my motivation at any moment in time? And that changes at different stages in life. My ability to function, the more I work with behavioral tools, the more interested I'm in emotional intelligence, because that's really the enabler for a lot of that.
Yeah.
And the 4th one is that everything else, my limiting beliefs, my fears, my doubts, my life experiences, and learning to untangle some of those, let go of some of them.
Yeah.
And when I can really combine and understand those 4 layers, I can really step into my strength.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do I start to understand those things? I read some great research a while back by Tasha Ulrich, I believe, Dr. Tasha Ulrich, and she was talking about self-awareness and saying that, when you survey people, something like 95% of us believe we are self-aware. The reality is about 10% of us actually are. So, how do I overcome that barrier to really understanding, who I am?
Yeah, I think that's this idea of continual development, right? Learning is lifelong. And when we continually keep working on ourselves is when we start to get that realization. I love that research because when you do ask people for their performance reviews, they might grade themselves better than they are.
Yeah.
But if they keep working on themselves, they suddenly might realize, hey, maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Maybe I have got this gap.
Yeah.
So it's just that continual work on yourself, learning pathways, learning's lifelong. Keep doing that.
And what I'm hearing you really say there is let's make sure we're aware, let's live consciously and tune in or observe how I'm behaving in any given moment. How am I thinking? How am I feeling? What do you see as some of the big game shifters, when people are able to get better at certain, whether it's mindsets or emotions or whatever it is, that make the biggest difference to reaching potential?
I think one thing right now is to actually recognize, to be more present to what's going on. We're in what I call this Blinkist society. We're in such a rush. We want to accelerate our learning. We want to consume everything in 30 seconds and then we think we've integrated it.
Yeah.
No, we've got to actually pause, reflect, put it into action and actually integrate it properly.
Yeah.
So when we can be less Blinkist in our thinking, when we can be more present to what's going on, and slow down. It's counterintuitive. Learn to slow down is how you actually speed up in your personal growth.
Yeah. Look, I totally agree with that. I think about even just the years running my own business and just being so busy being busy rather than actually being purposeful and actually having a big impact because I'm actually zeroing in on what matters most. So, again, that's the life lesson that I've learned is that slowing down actually creates that capacity to think, to deliberate, to learn, to execute with precision.
This is it, right? Most things that really help us grow are counterintuitive. Productivity is the same. This myth of multitasking, we're a single core processor. We only have one brain.
Yeah.
So if we're trying to focus on 10 things, we're going to potentially mess up more at once.
Yeah.
So like many things, it's counterintuitive. Slow down to speed up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do less to get more done.
Yeah.
You've just got to think a little bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, I love that. In Add Value, you also talk about, pardon me, the value of working in line. I'm saying the word value a lot, I've suddenly realised, but working in line with our values.
Yeah.
Why does that actually matter?
Yeah.
Why does that actually make a difference to our ability to be at our best?
Yeah. The simple answer is that there's a word called praxis. So when you learn to put your values into practice, you are in praxis. It's an ancient Greek word, and that means that you're aligned. The ideologies, the philosophies are now being enacted on. And with that comes fulfillment. It comes satisfaction, comes calmness. It's that inner comfortability that comes as a result of that. So really that's why, and if you think about it in business as well, businesses have got values. When they're not living those values, what they experience is pushback. If they jump on themes and they're not really living them, their customers kind of push back on that. It's the same for ourselves. We know, we can feel internally, if we're not kind of aligned with our values, we get that irky feeling in our stomach. When we are living with our values, it's plain as sailing.
Yeah.
It's plain as sailing already.
Yeah. So how do I understand what my values are if I haven't spent much time going down that path? I mean, for people like you and I, we hang out in that space, so we have this whole laundry list in our head of what example values there might be, how they might play out in our lives. But, if I haven't gone through that exercise, either as a business leader or as an individual, again, where can I start to understand that?
Yeah, I think, look, there's lists you can work from, because ultimately values come down to words. And I think the biggest thing is, so long as the word isn't a word, so in a business, it's not just a poster on a wall, it's being lived and breathed through our behaviors.
Yeah.
So an example, I might talk about having a value of respect in the environment, let's say, and being really focused on that. But am I saying yes to every plastic bag? Am I trashing everything? Am I opting out of neutralizing my carbon? Then that's kind of out of alignment with that value.
Yeah.
It's just the word. So it's slow down, look at the words. Which ones really make you feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Play off against them, and which ones really leap out and stand out?
Yeah.
Another way would be look at the people you really respect and admire. What are the traits that you think are popping about them? Potentially there's some clues there as to what your values are. There's a reason they resonate for you. And then you can get honed in on the handful that you're really living and breathing on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And what I'm hearing throughout our conversation here is, again, just this need to be conscious, to actually be really tuned into what is important to me. How do I actually feel? And then what I'm thinking next is what we probably need then is the courage to actually make decisions off the back of those values, what we know is important to us. To what extent do you see that happening out there with organisations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two things that people can learn here. One, and they're very simple. Some people can learn to say no.
Yes.
Right? Learn to say no and push back on the things if it's not aligned with who we are.
Yeah.
We can toe the line and go along with it versus make a stand. There's a quote that I write in the book, and it comes from Shakespearean times, that you've got to be cruel to be kind. And I think the updated version of that is you've got to be candid to be kind.
Yeah.
Cruelty and kindness are polarities. However, you can be candid, straight shooting, and still be respectful. And that is kindness. So it's when you learn to embrace candor.
Yeah.
Jack Welch, right, arguably one of the most successful CEOs on some levels, he talked about candor as the biggest dirty little secret in business, because a lack of it kills everything. It kills productivity, it kills creativity, kills idea, kills trust.
Yeah.
And the same is true in our personal life. So when we can embrace this idea of being candid, when we can learn to say no, when we can learn to express ourselves comfortably, that's when we liberate ourselves from that.
Love that. I call that learning the art of tough love.
Yes.
It is so powerful. Mark, really appreciate you joining us on the show today. I have no doubt our audience would have taken a great deal of value from that conversation.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you. So our next guest is Kira, who is joining us here to talk about imagining change. So Kira Lancaster is the founder of professional training and coaching business, Reimagine Change. She's also a speaker and author of her new book, which no doubt she'll tell us about where you can get that, but it's called Reimagine Change, Escape Change Fatigue, Build Resilience, and Awaken Your Creative Brilliance. Kira, welcome to Black Belt Leader.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. So in your book, Reimagine Change, you talk about change fatigue. What does that actually mean?
In simple terms, change fatigue is talking about the physical and mental tiredness we experience. Now, when I'm working with teams and their leaders, we often use the metaphor of a rubber band or an elastic band. So within each of us, imagine that you have an elastic band, and for some people that will stretch to a great deal, and for others it will only stretch a small amount. Now, what contributes to how you cope and what's stretching is what I like to call the three fatigues. So change fatigue itself is when you're thinking about unlearning, relearning, and learning all of those new processes, technology skills, And of course, cultural
Can you
change
turn the mic on here?
expectations too. Can you hear me now?
So sorry, Kira, I've actually lost your sound there, but we're going to...
Stream us live on the Ticker app, Apple TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and tickertv.com.au. Ticker, streaming news now.
Welcome back to Black Belt Leader, where we're talking to Kira Lancaster. Kira, we were just having a conversation there about change fatigue, so apologies for that little glitch there. But what I want to explore further with you, and apologies if you did tell the audience because I couldn't hear you. But, if I want to really make sure I'm avoiding change fatigue, and, let's start through the lens of an individual, because obviously having sustainable energy and being able to keep going when we're doing a tough job is obviously key and very challenging. So, what are some of those golden rules to avoid getting to that place of real fatigue?
Sure. I think really, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Excellent. I think really change fatigue is a dual responsibility, both of the organisation and the leaders at the top, and also the individual. So when we think about it from the top down, I guess we want leaders to be thinking about radical prioritisation of all of those change initiatives and ensuring that only the most key initiatives are impacting their team at any one time. And beyond that, it's making sure that we are announcing and celebrating when there is a short gap between sprints and making sure our teams know that this is a time to regenerate and to reflect on how far they've come and how far they've got to go.
Yeah. So I totally agree, but why do you specifically point to that celebration step as avoiding fatigue? How does that really make a difference?
Well, I think this comes down to remembering that we are human beings and not human doings. And we have these amazing creative minds within us. And ultimately, when we go to work, we want to feel our best and be at our energetic best so that we can contribute to not just our work, but to the change efforts at task. And if we don't pause and reflect, acknowledge and celebrate the efforts, people won't have that innate motivation to continue on.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Just that simple thank you can make such a big difference to how people are feeling. But also, I often talk to people about just the power of stopping, smelling the rose, actually feeling like we are actually making progress. We are actually getting here. I agree. It's an incredibly important part of maintaining, again, that resilience and ability to keep moving forward. So if I'm a leader, and I really want to make sure I've got some regular strategies in place to make sure, obviously I've heard what you've said around prioritisation, making sure we're not just setting the team up to fail because they've got too much to start with. What other advice do you have around, some of those proactive things that I can do to help my team avoid burnout?
I think you need to be honest with yourself. If you are working in an industry or an organisation where perhaps you haven't had emotional intelligence training or coaching, I think you need to call in the experts to get some help, because ultimately what you want is your team to understand not just what's to come, but the risks of not being aware of how tough times can get and what they can do to support themselves. You want the whole team to be thinking about a common narrative and how they can move forward.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's really wise advice. Tell us a bit more about your book. Where is it available and, who is it written for? Who should go and get the book?
Sure. So when I was working in the corporate area, I noticed that a lot of leaders who had expertise in other areas suddenly found themselves with much more change leadership responsibilities. And this was keeping them up at night, and they were feeling overloaded, overwhelmed, and over it. And really, this new emotional turmoil was impacting their ability to give themselves their best chance at work and to support their team.
Yeah.
So it really feels a coaching gap in organisations, and I hope that leaders get the opportunity to read it and to share it with their teams and to start those courageous conversations so that they don't dip into the burnout zone where the crisis conversations have to happen.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if we've learned anything in 2020, it's that change can be sudden, it can be rapid, it can be unknown, it can be unrelenting. We can be wondering when it's ever going to be over. So, you know, I think more and more leaders and teams need to be well equipped for, you know, again, that resilience, that agility, that ability just to keep evolving, shifting, changing as we need to in organisations.
Absolutely. The first step isn't just about awareness, it's about validating people's emotions and understanding that people experience change very differently. It's a very subjective experience. So the more that you can understand the different scales and what that feels like for different individuals, the easier it will be for you to have those really compassionate conversations and start to shift them into a more positive place.
Yeah. Totally agree. Well, thank you again for joining us here on the show. Really do appreciate you sharing all those insights with our audience today.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
Thank you. So joining us next is Tim Kratiris. Tim is the founder of Philodomo Global. Tim, welcome back to Black Belt Leader.
Thank you for having me, Karen.
It's exciting to have you here.
And in studio.
I know. That's what I was about to say. It's great to actually meet you in person.
Absolutely.
And be able to spend time physically in the same space.
Absolutely.
So look, you know, obviously your organisation are experts at helping organisations to thrive, to perform at their best. So I was especially keen to talk to you about that business potential, with you know, obviously potential being our key theme today. Sure. And wanted to tap into your insight. What are some of the most common barriers that you observe, you know, with all the business leaders you're working with? What are the things that are holding them back from actually reaching their potential?
Karen, it's a very interesting question because I see it slightly differently. I actually think everyone hits their potential.
Okay.
And the way I like to think about that is, what is potential? It's this sort of esoteric, unattainable thing that when we start believing it, we feel like we haven't got to where we should be at an age, or the amount of money we should have achieved, or our business should be this because someone who looks similar has had a different result. And it's just this madness, right? So I figure that everyone gets to their potential. The problem is they generally run out of time when they die. Right? But if we gave people
maybe retire beforehand.
You know, that's a much nicer way of putting it. But if we could imagine, if you gave everyone else an extra 100 years, would much really change? And so for me, when I look at what are people, or how do they not reach this thing called potential? They're trying to grab something that doesn't exist because it's an illusion. For me, potential is about where am I right now and today. So the only thing that matters right now is obviously us talking to each other and trying to share our experiences with an audience in the hope that they might take something and, you know, see their life differently, change their behavior. But I think this whole idea with people who are maddened by trying to reach this thing that doesn't exist is, what should I be focused on, and how do I be my inner weirdo? This is what I want to achieve. Where am I, and what do I need to do now? Because I think where the problems come is actually trying to strive for something that's an illusion put on by other people, outside forces, and in that is the problem. Why am I even thinking I should be somewhere else rather than right here? You're where you need to be right now, and now you've got the awareness. Do you want to do more of something or less of something? So for me, I see it differently. I think everyone reaches their potential now. That's going to anger a few people, obviously. Because they go, well, no, I know I can be better. Yes, you can. Make the change now.
That's right. So what I'm really hearing you say is redefining potential to each moment. It's like, what is the best version of me in this moment? What is the best possible outcome in this moment?
What is
and
my
zeroing
potential
in on that
in this moment with a decision I'm going to make? I mean, we spoke a little earlier around, you said, I'm going to make a decision. I want to get this off my plate because I know it's going to move me forward in the path I want to go. So you did it. There was no motivation needed. There was nothing. It was just like, hey, check this out. It's like, blew me away, right? It's like, how did you do this in such a short amount of time? Because you're totally in flow. It's not about, I wish I was here, I wish I was here. It's like, I want to get this done because I know this is going to be the next step. It's like, well, is there anything more to do? Like that's, if we only did that,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's so complicated.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So, again, coming back to some of those barriers, what might be some of those in the moment things that you most often see being the difference between smashing it versus just doing okay at it?
I think that's probably where the important ingredient is, which is a task that you might not like to do, but if you can align it to what you want to experience. So I know I want to get here, and here's a task that I know if I get this done, it's a stepping stone towards that. You don't need much motivation or focus. But when you start doing tasks that you feel you have to do, but actually aren't leading towards that path, they become hard.
Yes.
And I think, at school we're taught we have to learn everything and do things. I figure we're all old enough and silly enough now to go, well, is this leading me towards the thing I want? Yes, do more of it.
Yeah.
Is this something that's leading towards what I want, but it's annoying? Yes, do it.
Yeah.
If this thing's got no relevance, outsource it, get rid of it, change. For me, we overcomplicate when we become adults around, we know what we want to experience, we think that's what we want to experience, run at it as though your life depends on it, because it does.
Yeah.
I want to experience that, so go for it. And I think too many people are trying to motivate themselves to do things because they're meant to do it.
Yeah.
Why do you want to be part of the majority of people? Nothing extraordinary happens in the majority. It's going to be, if all these people, watching and yourself, you want to do something that aligns with the life you want to lead. Yeah. Well, it's not going to be the same as everyone, so just accept it.
Yeah.
So for me,
what I'm really hearing you say there is that often it's that lack of clear purpose, that I really actually know what the dream is. I know what I want to achieve, and I know why this thing that I'm working on is making that happen.
Yeah, I don't even know if you need that such clarity. I think you need the clarity on, this feels good, do more of it. Because, I don't know, in the last 15 years of your ideas have changed in what you want in life. I know mine certainly have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not silly enough to think the next 15 years what I want now is going to be the same. Once upon a time it was sports cars and holidays.
Yeah.
And now that stuff sort of is all superficial. So for me it's, how do we get people focused on things that at this moment feels right?
Yeah.
And how do we do it with intent?
Yeah.
And how do we ignore the things that are pressures going, oh, that's not really the way most people do it. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know who you are now. Do the things that make you happy and focus on it.
So what I'm wondering now is, for the person listening to this thinking, but what happens if I don't have the confidence? I don't have the belief or the knowledge to be able to make these calls. If I'm just going on my gut instinct, then what? How do I make sure I'm making the right decisions?
Now courage is a different courage is a different conversation, because at some time you've got to, I guess, I like to, when I get to a point, because we're not all perfect, right? We get to a point like, do I have to do this? And I step it out 5-10 years and go, doing this, where does it lead me?
Yeah.
And if the answer is, it's annoying now, but I know this is going to be an important building block, so I'm going to invest in that. Might be conversations, relationships, businesses, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If I'm doing something, I'm like, why can't I have the motivation, or why don't I want to take that chance? I'm like, I've got to align whether what's not doing that right now going to miss me in the next 10 years. And I think people who are struggling with taking a chance, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Most people try and change their whole life at once.
Yeah.
Pick a thing, run an experiment. If it feels good, do more of it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, don't do it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sound patronizing to people, because I realize life's hard, right?
But
and we're all fighting this.
Choices.
But we need to get pragmatic and simple. If we've learned anything from this year, stuff happens.
Yeah, that's right.
So what can we focus on, and what do you really want to try? Even if it doesn't make sense why you're enjoying it now, explore it.
Yeah.
You can run experiments in your life. You don't have to kill everything that's your foundation.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw out every friend because they're not serving you. You don't need to disassociate with things. You need to run experiments, see if it works, do more.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems easy when we say it in theory, but I feel people get hurt by it.
Yeah.
I feel like they take on these things of, I should be doing this by my age. I should have done this. I should have bought a property, but I couldn't afford it. I should have done this in my business. No, you're here now.
Yeah, that's right.
Get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. Accept our reality and start creating the future through purposeful moments. In each moment, am I giving it my best? Am I, bringing courage, as we've said?
And enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're here now for a reason, and you've now got the awareness of, if you need to change, you've got the awareness of, okay, what? And it's not easy to come up with that, but you've got to explore it. That's the purpose.
Yeah. Absolutely love it. Well, great wisdom as usual, why we got you back on board. In terms of the Philotomo team, how do people find you guys?
You can search us on our socials and have a look, but as I say, we're a performance consultancy, so there's a brutal pragmatism that we like to bring, which hopefully...
Absolutely.
But as I said, it's great to be back on, and thank you for having me. It's very fun.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Well, look, that's all we've got for our show today. As always, if you do want us to talk about a particular topic, please get in touch and let us know. You can get in touch, obviously, via our social media pages or our website, which is corporatedojo.com. And remember, you choose. Will you be an ordinary or an awesome leader of people?
Stream us live on the Ticker app, Apple TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and tickertv.com.au. Ticker, streaming news now. Stream us live on the Ticker app, Apple TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and tickertv.com.au. Ticker, streaming news now.